AV in your ears, that's ambush being giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my voice, Steve, Fascination Street. You already know, let's get it. When you whip in the Fascination Street, what do you...
This is Lori Fetrick, aka Ice from the American Gladiators, and you are listening to Fascination Street. AV in your ears, that's ambush being giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my voice, Steve, Fascination Street. You already know, let's get it. When you whip in the Fascination Street, what do you...
Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Kevin Brewer, Coach Kevin Brewer, from the podcast Rise Again from the Struggle. In this episode, I get to know Kevin and why he started this podcast. What's really funny is we don't even really talk about his podcast until way later into the show. What we do talk about, though, I think you will find fascinating. Kevin spent 7 years in the Navy before transitioning to become a government contractor working with the DoD, and then eventually as a government employee working for the Justice Department. We talk about some of that stuff. I ask him for state secrets. He refuses to divulge them, but we do talk about how he got sick after being deployed in Afghanistan, some of the things that happened to him health-wise, which resulted in other things happening to him health-wise, which resulted in other things happening to him health-wise. And then finally, he discovers a way to lose weight, which helps some of the things that were going on. And then he finds this other thing. It is called stem cell treatment. It is a very specific, targeted stem cell treatment for what he was going through, and he talks extensively about that and why he decided to do those things. And his transformation from where he was to where he is miraculous. There's no other word for it. The time span for his transformation will blow your mind. Kevin also has certifications from the programs Mental Performance Mastery and Heroic Performance. And he went from laying on the couch in too much pain to walk to the refrigerator to now regularly competing in Spartan competitions, which are endurance obstacle courses. You're going to love this episode. This guy is the bee's knees. Check out his podcast, Rise Again from the Struggle. He has over 800 episodes for you to check out, but they're all kind of short. Tell you all about it right here in this, my conversation with Coach Kevin Brewer from Rise Again from the Struggle.
Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated.
Welcome to Fascination Street Podcast, Kevin Brewer. What's up, dude?
Not much. How you doing, man?
I can't complain. I could, but nobody cares. Actually, I could, but not in front of you because your whole thing is about sucking it up, Buttercup. All right, so Kevin, what we're going to do is we're going to get to know you and the things that are you and the things that you do and why you do them. First of all, Kevin, what I like to do is start from the beginning. It helps us understand how the guests got from where they were to where they are. So where were you born and raised, man? Where'd you grow up?
Dad was in the Navy, so I was born in San Diego, the naval base out there. Older brother, younger brother, so I'm the middle guy. The coolest one, of course. The middle children are always the coolest. So
sure.
Yeah, so we, military family for a while, and then moved back to my parents' hometown. Grew up there.
Where's there?
Dallas City, Illinois. Anybody who's Mormon that might be listening is close to Nauvoo, Illinois, which is where Mormons started. That's why I say that. But I joined the military from there.
Why did you join the military?
It's funny. There was just not any jobs in the area. It's kind of a small town area. So a friend of mine from high school said, he came in to me one day and said, "Hey, just joined the Navy. You should come with me. We can go to boot camp together." I said, "Okay." So,
did you get to go to boot camp together?
Yeah.
Where was boot camp?
It was at Great Lakes in Illinois.
Oh, okay. What did your dad say
About the military side?
about you joining the Navy?
He was really excited. Him and I didn't have a good relationship at that time. When I was younger, we didn't have a really good relationship. Grew up, he was an alcoholic, kind of abusive at first, and then grew to, have a much better relationship before he passed last year. But he was still proud of that. He talked about it all the time, and he was very proud of that himself. So he did a lot of things for vets and the community. So
before your dad passed, did he turn a new leaf?
Yeah. So after him and my mom got divorced, actually, he changed significantly. So he stopped drinking quite a bit and just kind of really opened up and really changed his personality a lot.
Can I ask how he passed?
Yeah, so he had lung cancer, stage 4. Then he ended up getting was it diverticulitis, and I think he really died of more malnutrition.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think he just stopped eating, or what do you think happened?
No, so the last 6 months he had just like extreme diarrhea, like just literally couldn't eat anything. Like as soon as he'd eat anything, he'd just be on the toilet and couldn't keep anything down. So
is that part of diverticulitis?
yeah, I think so. I think it was kind of a combo of that and then the chemo drugs and just like he just never stopped smoking either. So just all that I think just kind of caught up to him.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I'm glad that you guys were able to repair your relationship before that happened, but I'm still sorry it happened.
Appreciate that.
How about your mom? What did she say when you joined the Navy?
She was really excited. She's happy for it. She thought that was the best move for me, just because again the area there was just nothing there job wise, right? There used to be a lot of manufacturing jobs in the area. It's right in the Iowa, Illinois, Missouri border area on the Mississippi, but they'd all moved out. So there's really just not any jobs there, unless you did some like farming and things like that. But
do you think it was the best decision for you?
Yeah, for sure. I love learning. I learn all the time. I read all the time. I do that stuff, but I hate school. I don't like the way it's structured. I don't like the way it's conducted. Nothing about it interests me. I think they move too fast and some things too slow and other things. It's too broad, all this stuff. So I was done with it. Like I always got good grades, I'm an intelligent guy, but it just wasn't my path in the future. So I just needed to go do something. So yeah, it did a lot for me.
What did you do in the Navy? You were in the Navy for 22 years?
No. So I was in the Navy for 7. Then I got out to government contracting, and now I work with the Department of Justice as a full-time job.
Where are you?
In the D.C. region, Northern Virginia. So are you familiar with that at all?
No. My wife was in the Navy, and she was stationed in Bethesda for a while at the National Naval Hospital.
Yeah, I'm not too far from there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
When you were in the Navy for 7 years, what was your job?
I was a CTT, so cryptologic technician technical, so fancy way of saying intelligence. And I did non-communication based signals intelligence, so radar based stuff, basically.
Were you on submarines or just boats or land? Where were you?
Yep. So I did my first 3 years was in Hawaii on subs. I rode subs. We'd go out, do our mission a couple months at a time, come back. Just did that multiple times a year. I was kind of in and out constantly. I came over here to the DC region to the National Reconnaissance Office where I did national level stuff. From here, I actually ended up on a surface ship for 2 weeks, giving some training to some surface ships on a system they were putting on the boats. And then while I was underway for that, I got a phone call said, "Hey, you're going to Afghanistan." And I was like, "Why the hell did you call me on the boat to tell me I was going to Afghanistan?" And I said, "Well, I was supposed to be on shore duty, but I guess you never said which shore I was going to be on." So I got back. I ended up going on training a couple months later for 3 months of training, effectively just another boot camp. And then went to Afghanistan for a year and came back. And that's when all my health stuff started. So
when were you in Afghanistan?
07 to 08.
Okay, 07, 08. This is going to sound like a dumb question, but was anything going on over there at that time?
Yeah, off and on. So I was in Farah province, part of a provincial reconstruction team. Basically, a fancy way of saying that they'd go out and build, win the hearts and minds. So they'd build wells, roads, things like that. So I was the intel guy for 6 months there. Also did some PSYOPs operations. So I go out on convoys and try to get them to love us, kind of thing. The next 6 months, I was the head of communications. And so I was the one talking to the convoys and everything and making sure they had any kind of medevac and things like that, running the shop there. Our province was pretty calm for the most part at that time because the Marines were not allowed in country for a while. But as we were leaving, the Marines were coming back in country and all hell broke loose because they started doing more little small outposts and stuff. So the little safe havens the Taliban had in that province were no longer safe havens. So
the Marines is part of the Navy, is that correct?
Technically, they're Department of the Navy, yeah.
I'm so confused because as far as I understand it, Afghanistan is nothing but desert and mountains. Like, why is the Navy in Afghanistan?
Yeah. Really, we were filling, they called individual augmentation. So we would fill spots that the Army couldn't man because they just had, rotation was just so thick. So they would put us in spots to do a lot of the support stuff.
So when something like that happens, so they put an entire Navy, I don't know if they're called battalions or what are regiments, what do they call a whole group of people in the Navy?
A command.
A command. So did they put a whole command out there or did they just pick up Kevin and plop him down in the middle of an Army battalion?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's all individual augmentation. So they just randomly take people here and there. So they just go to each command and say, hey, give me 1, 10, 15 people, whatever it is. And then we all get assigned to something.
As a civilian, we see all this saber rattling, like, hey, go Army, beat Navy, go Navy, beat Army. Nobody likes those dudes. Those dudes are wusses. But when you're in the shit, none of that matters, right? Y'all are all just doing the thing. Did they treat you any different, is what I guess I'm asking?
It depends. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. So it really kind of individually. So there was a lot of still back and forth in that, and especially up in the upper chain of command, there was some back and forth. People not seeing eye to eye. I think they run things differently, stuff like that. So we would catch some shit sometimes, especially on the lower inside, in the middle, that we would get some infighting and stuff. And then most time we could just kind of solve it on our own and just let the upper echelon kind of duke it out, and we would just kind of bear the brunt of it. But I just depended, like it's more of an individual thing.
That sounds awesome. So after you got out of the Navy, now you work for, did you say the Department of Defense?
Yeah, I did contracting with the Department of Defense.
That's past tense?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do now, or can you say?
So I actually work for the Department of Justice. I build financial networks. So I built out financial money laundering networks for criminal organizations.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I research and develop and build out financial networks for criminal organizations to combat money laundering operations.
To combat money laundering.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not money laundering. Yeah.
The way that came off, I was like, wait a minute, you work for the government to build money laundering networks? That sounds weird.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Okay, here's the question. I need you to do me a favor. I don't know if you can. If you can't do it, then just say you can't. But if you can do it, just say you can't. That way nobody will know what the hell is going on. Will you build into all of that networking? Will you just funnel a ton of cash to my bank account?
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Yeah,
You're supposed to say I can't. Oh, man.
I can't do that.
How did you get into doing that?
I did some of it in the Navy, kind of the open source or all source. They call all source. So basically, I'm more of generalized intel. So I just kind of go through different levels and different types of intelligence and then put it together. When I got out and did more contracting stuff, I started getting further into that. And then I got into doing some stuff more on the DoD side, and then the DoD side supporting law enforcement based off that, because that contract was going away. I ended up switching over to a different contract during COVID to do the Department of Justice fully. And then 2023, I joined the government, rather than doing contracting. That was actually a government position. So I just switched titles and sat in the same seat.
So you're a civilian contractor?
Government employee now. I was a contract. Yeah.
A government employee. You were a contractor. Now you're a government employee. Okay. Do you work at the Pentagon?
No.
Can you get me into the Pentagon and then also funnel all that cash to my bank account?
Yeah, of course. No, if you don't want to go to the Pentagon, it's a hassle to get to. It's full of all kinds of random people who think they're important, but most part.
Rubber glove treatment and all, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to jump around a little bit, Kevin. You mentioned that when you were in Afghanistan for that basically 1 year, that after that is when you started having health problems.
Yep.
What kind?
So on my way back from Afghanistan, I ended up getting, I think it was a swine flu at that time. So I was just down and out hard. And I also had a sinus infection. So my whole left side was completely full of infection. The right side was half full. I had a couple hernias that had formed. So I was in pretty bad shape. Started getting treatment for all that stuff.
So hold on. You said on the way back. Were you on a boat on the way back or a plane?
Plane. So
on the plane, you're just like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah. So actually at that time, because I was so congested, I was using the Nasonex nasal sprays.
Aren't you not supposed to fly if you're congested like that in your head?
Probably.
Cool.
But yeah, it was pretty bad. I'd had it for about 6 months or so, and they just kept giving me a Z-Pack a couple times. And when the Z-Pack didn't work fast enough, then they're like, it must not be an infection, and then just gonna let it go. By the time we got back, I couldn't hardly breathe. So I was using the nasal spray so much, I effectively gave myself a heart attack on the plane. My heart rate just skyrocketed. I had started having chest pains and stuff. And I started passing out on the plane. And then we get back and they did the x-rays and everything. And it was my face was completely full of infection. They're like, yeah, you really need a really strong antibiotic now.
But then you landed and you got some medical treatment and they gave you another Z-Pack and then you were all good, right? You were fine?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it went down. So, So they give me like a long-term antibiotic, which is, I didn't know at the time, causes ligament and tendon damage. And I have psoriasis that turned into psoriatic arthritis, which obviously causes ligament and tendon damage as well, that I didn't know about. So all this combined, and then I was still getting over the sickness, because it really took a toll on me. I had the surgery and all that stuff for the hernia.
Oh, okay. Surgery for the hernias. Okay.
And I was still kind of getting back from all that stuff. And I, of course, went to the weight room. I felt something pop in my upper neck, upper back and lower neck area. Did the smart thing, went and played basketball instead of stopping. From that point on, I just haven't had all kinds of like heart rate issues and chest pain. And
what was that popping and the snapping? What was that?
I don't know what it was 100%, but I'm pretty sure it was just like a disc in my back, upper back thoracic, like bulging. It just caused all kinds of neurologic issues and stuff, and then eventually led to cervical instability. Effectively, I was decapitating myself every time I would look up after about 13 years of misdiagnosis and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like it sucks, bro.
Yeah. Every year, basically, I kept getting worse and worse. And then I had other things going on in there too. So like that started in 2008 and it just kept progressively getting worse. So I found a rhythm though in about 2012 or so. I started getting chiropractic therapy and cortisone injections. It kind of calmed some things down for a little bit, off and on. So I ended up getting a motorcycle at that point, and of course I promptly wrecked that and shattered the radio head in my elbow. So now I have a fake elbow. Yeah.
None of this is funny. That's why it's so funny.
Exactly.
Dude, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny event because I was driving and I had only had it for a couple months, and another biker, do you ride at all?
I used to, yeah.
Yeah, so the two finger salute. So another biker went by and we waved at each other, and then of course I went to go increase speed or whatever, and for some reason I just got completely backwards and I pulled the front brake to clutch, and then of course the bike just stalled out and went straight over. So I went straight into the asphalt, face first, elbow first, tits over ass, kind of thing. The bike just knocked my leg. So my leg was just like twice the size. My right leg was about twice the size of it normally was, and my elbow, I couldn't move it. And I just kind of hobbled to the median. And when the ambulance came over, the paramedic was sitting there arguing with me about, oh, your elbow should be fine, but your leg, you definitely broke your leg. And I was like, no, you 100% got that wrong. I was like, my leg hurts for sure. But I was like, it feels like a major Charlie horse. I was like, so once I get moving, it's fine. I was like, but I'm telling you right now, I can't move my arm. And he's like, no, you got that wrong. Of course, I was 100% right. My elbow was shattered and my leg was fine. It was just contusions. But during that event, there was actually a drunk driver that ended up getting caught because he wrecked right next to me. So, and this was like, I think 2:00 in the afternoon. So I got a drunk driver busted, at least got somebody off the streets because of my wreck. So,
so because the drunk driver saw your accident, was like, holy shit, then he wrecked?
Yeah. Yep.
That sucks.
So he got arrested, and that was pretty funny.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey, this is Landon from the podcast Landon Talks with Kate. Y'all, we wrote a book, Bless Your Heart, A Field Guide to All Things Southern. Comes out April 1st of 2025, and I know that's April Fool's Day, and I do stand-up comedy, but this is not a joke. I literally wrote a book. It's a field guide to life in the South. It's a field guide to how things go down here. It is a hilarious adventure. It's one of those kind of books that you can pick up at any point and read any part of it. You don't have to read it straight through because it is just a fun jaunt, a fun little saunter down an encyclopedia of Southern life. And I will tell y'all, it really got interesting because I am Southern, obviously. So the things I say, I understand. My editors were not. So we've got footnotes, we've got cross-references. This thing is turned educational because we had to explain it for everybody. So if you're from the South, you're going to love it because it's hilarious, the things that we talk about and do and the way that we exist. If you're not from the South, you're going to love it because it's a literal guide into life down here and all the silly things that we do and say and all the nostalgia as well. You can pre-order your copy now wherever books are sold. And if you want to hear more from me, check out my podcast, Landon Talks with Kate, wherever podcasts are found.
Let's get back into it.
I'm going to ask you a question and you can tell me to fuck right off. You worked for 22 years on classified military and federal law enforcement initiatives. Tell me the biggest classified secret that you worked on. No. Okay, cool. So what does that mean? You worked on classified military and federal law enforcement initiatives. What are law enforcement initiatives?
At times, they did try to do these like whole of government approaches to look at different larger networks and larger problem sets, different organized crime groups.
So this is all within the scope of money laundering and
Some of it, yeah, drug trafficking, money laundering, narco terrorism, they call it too. Like, I'm not a big believer actually believing that narcotics and terrorism actually overlap all that much. There's some overlap, but it's not as nearly as much as what they try to make it out to be, I think, personally. But
and you're basing this on your extensive experience in the field behind the scenes?
yeah, on both sides, yeah. I've done counterterrorism, I've done straight intelligence of like other nations, and I've done law enforcement intelligence, and I don't particularly see it overlapping that much. I mean, they have some trade routes and stuff that are similar and they overlap from time to time, and there's some mutual beneficial agreements, but they usually end up in fighting after a while because they have different methods and their end goals are always different.
So it's not like we all hear or think that the cocaine I buy tomorrow is going to fund a terrorist cell in Afghanistan next week.
Yeah, not usually. So even if in Afghanistan, so there's a lot of black tar heroin come out of Afghanistan. There's a prime crop. It's poppy there. That's one of the easiest things to grow in that region. So there's a lot of heroin that comes out of Afghanistan, but even that's not necessarily controlled by most of the terrorist groups because the terrorists are ideologically motivated to overthrow governments, whereas the drug traffickers just want money.
So where do the terrorists get their money?
Basically brute force. They go and steal it. They steal different items. They scare people, basically, things like that.
So they learned it from the Italian mafia?
Probably, yeah.
Like it's that kind of a thing where they just go take whatever they want or intimidate the shit out of people to give it to them?
Yeah, pretty much. And they do have some people that just support them or, like
sure, ideologically.
They believe in it. Yeah, so they do that. They do a lot of what they call IO campaigns, so PSYOPs, basic psychological operations or intelligence operations or information operations. One of the things that people don't know about from the Afghan war, for instance, a lot of the Taliban or the Mujahideen or the terrorist fighters, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all those guys, they don't have a uniform. So what'll happen is like they'll be shooting from a building, we'll blow a building up, and all of a sudden they'll go take the guns off the people. And since they don't wear a uniform, they just take a picture and go, look at all these civilians you guys killed. Those are information operations. So they'll post that on the internet or whatever. And then we here in the United States think that, we're just killing a bunch of civilians. It's like, no, they just took the gun out of the dude's hand. It was sitting out of a window shooting at these troops going by, with RPGs and things. And then go, oh, you killed a civilian. No, I killed somebody who was shooting at me.
I'm assuming this kind of thing only happens in Afghanistan, not in any conflict that's happening right now, right?
Of course, yeah.
Cool. All right. Right. Just making sure. How clearanced was your classified status? How classified was your clearance status? You know what I'm asking.
TS.
I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Top secret. So I had the highest classifications.
Yeah, the highest one? Other than the president? That's cool. That's pretty sick. What's my classification? None?
Classified fascination, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm taking that one. Did you work your way up to that classification? Or was that your first one? Like, did you just walk into top secret or did you have to work your way up?
Yeah, so the job I did in the Navy required it, so I got it when I joined the Navy, So
you've been top secret classified for all this time? And you still are?
Yeah.
How come they're letting you talk to me? Because you're not telling me anything cool?
Yeah, pretty much.
Are they listening?
Probably.
Sweet. You want to say hi to anybody?
Yeah.
Hi, Bert.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Irving. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so you had these health issues,
mm-hmm.
and at the time that these issues started, you were in pretty good physical condition, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're lifting weights and playing basketball with broken necks and shit. So I would imagine you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But then what happened was all of these things that happened, just you stopped working out and then your health deteriorated. Is that right?
Yeah. So pretty much anything movement based caused severe problems. So I had, if you know the symptoms of a heart attack and stroke, I really had those every single day for 13 years. And then they just amplified. And then I started having other neurologic issues.
So how are you going to work every day if you're having these kinds of intense pains and declining quality of life?
It was very hard. And in fact, right before COVID, I was actually driving to work. I had 3 ice packs, a heating pad, and those TENS machines, those stim units, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had one of those going at all times. And I would have that at work going on too. I spent a lot of time standing and kneeling, just because I couldn't, it hurt to sit. I started getting like brain fog. I started getting, my face was like numb and tingly all the time.
Now, a regular person, especially in America, would just go get disability and not go to work. How come you didn't do that? I know you laugh, but 99% of America would do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know why I didn't do that.
How come they didn't tell you to fuck off? How come they didn't tell you to go home?
I'll give my work credit. They did a lot of wonderful things for me in terms of that. So at one point I had what's called tethered cord syndrome. So every time I'd bend over, my spinal cord would get pulled down. And I had to end up getting surgery for that.
You mean pulled down out of the spinal canal?
Yeah, so your actual spinal cord terminates about the middle of your back, and then the rest of it's just like your nerves go into your body. But there's a piece of skin that holds your spinal cord to your tailbone. So like when you're getting formed in vitro, it doesn't like go off into space, you know? That usually over time that becomes more elastic, and then it just so your spinal cord can move up and down your column as you bend over and things like that. Well, mine eventually just got stuck and it didn't move anymore. So probably because I had psoriatic arthritis and all these ligament tendon issues. So every time I bend over, it was effectively pulling my spinal cord instead of letting it like flow upwards. It would keep it down. So it caused all kinds of pain and pressure, lower body. I would just have 12 out of 10 pain. Felt like I had to pee literally all day, every day. It was just real, real bad. I couldn't bend over more than 2 times a day. I mean, including getting in and out of the car. So I had a plan when I would go and get gas if I used to go to like softball practice when I was coaching softball at the time. So it was like all these things were really hard. But my work, since I couldn't sit at work, I was literally kneeling on my chair backwards and standing up and just altering between the two. And then sometimes they give me like an office to go lay in just to decompress sometimes, just because that's a lot of pressure.
Literally decompress, like physically, not just emotionally, right?
Yeah. Just because there was just so much pressure built up in the system. I just go like lay down for a little bit. And I had like a training class at one point during that whole phase too. And I was like literally like laying on my side listening to the training. And they were really cool about the whole thing. Like everybody was like, hey, you're here. We're cool with it. So it never became a distraction. So, and I know that's actually very odd and that's not normal.
It is.
Yeah.
That means you're so valuable that they're not going to let you die. They're just going to put your brain in a jar and make you keep working. Good God. I'm assuming that this caused you to gain some weight, all this lack of movement.
Yeah. So I didn't understand weight loss at the time. And of course, I went from being really active to being not active at all. And eventually I couldn't barely go from the couch to the fridge without basically breaking down. So I wasn't really moving at all. But I was eating like I was moving all the time.
You're eating regular, but moving less.
Yeah. So I ended up gaining a ton of weight. I was 240 plus. I was about to put on a size 50 pant.
Did you say size 50?
50. Yeah, I was in like 48 at the time and I was pushing those. So I was like, I can't continue this.
How tall are you?
About 6 feet.
Okay.
So I was pretty big. So I got into this mental performance stuff. I found this guy, Brian Kane, Jocko Willink, David Goggins. Yeah, I found all those guys and just started like following them guys. And I was like, you know what? I can control what I can control. And I said, you know what? One thing I can control is my weight and how I eat. All right. So I just started doing better with my food and nutrition. Got that under control. Lost a bunch of weight. Lost 90 pounds overall.
How long did it take you to lose 90 pounds?
It was about 15 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do any like crash diets or something like that. I didn't starve myself. I just literally, because I wanted to make it a lifestyle. I needed it to be sustainable just in case. So I just started, doing portion control first. And then there's a Japanese motto that says, stop eating when you are no longer hungry. So I started just paying attention to the signal there. And when I'd have a signal eventually, it's just kind of, you go from being starving, feeling like you're starving, to just not really being hungry, but you can still eat kind of thing. So I would just stop there. So I got a lot of things under control. I was pre-diabetic at the time, got that under control. I was on GERD medication. I was on medication for the psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis and what they call mixed connective tissue disorder. So I was on several rheumatologic drugs. Once I started losing all the weight, getting all that under control, getting my food and diet, nutrition under control, I was able to drop all those medications. Again, lost all the weight, things like that. Yeah, and now it's sustainable. Now I have a method that I use all the time.
So you lost this weight through diet, not exercise, or diet and exercise?
No, I couldn't exercise at all. I couldn't do anything. So it was just strictly diet.
Okay. Now, at this time, are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have a significant other? What's your personal story?
Married, 2 kids.
Okay, so while you're going through all of this, before you found Jocko and your weight loss regimen, when you're having all these pains and you're You can barely walk and all this other crazy shit. What are your wife and kids doing, thinking, saying?
That was really tough because I was still coaching travel baseball and softball with them. And then eventually, as I said, as it got, degraded and further, it became harder and harder.
So your kids were children at this time?
Yeah, yeah.
Are they children now? I have no idea.
Senior in high school and a sophomore in college.
Okay. So at this time, they were
Young.
Okay.
And actually, my son was, I think, one-ish when it started. So he was really young.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, so it was really hard. Like, it became a thing where it's like I couldn't really go with them places because by the time I'd get there, pretty much my body would be such disarray that I wouldn't be able to last very long. So I was ruining experiences for them because by the time we get wherever we were, like they were more worried about how much pain I was in and things like that, and I was becoming a distraction, really.
Now, mentally, that must have been maybe even extra hard on you, knowing that you didn't have the greatest relationship with your father. And then here you are, the dad, and you can't really participate enough meaningfully with your children.
Yeah, for sure. It became really hard because I couldn't do it the way I wanted to do. Yeah, so that was very tough. And especially with my wife. My wife wanted to travel. We had always talked about travel and doing all these different vacations, and I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't get on a plane, my body wouldn't handle it, things like that. So
can you now?
Yeah, I travel quite a bit now.
You lose, I don't know, like 100 pounds or something, right? 90, something like that?
Yeah, roughly, man.
That can't be all you did because you were having all this pain before you gained the weight. So how is it that you are able to be mobile?
During COVID, actually, I end up kind of getting, and you can hear I sniffle a lot and things like that. I actually have Tourette's, and that's a Tourette's symptom. So when COVID happened, I was in an office space, and all of a sudden, these things and my clearing my throat and sniffling and all these things became very profound.
So, did you always have Tourette's?
Yeah, I always had it. My camera's broken for whatever reason right now, but like I blink a lot too, and I almost like wink and blink, and I don't do it intentionally.
Sure.
So I've always had that growing up. But again, when COVID happened, one, I was already having trouble enough getting work, and I actually went in and told my boss, I was like, hey, I don't know if I can continue. I might start taking leave without pay. I'm gonna say thankfully, but thankfully, my Tourette's kicked in, and somebody got freaked out because I was like sniffing, coughing, and things like that a lot.
Oh, it's because it was COVID. They were like, oh shit, this guy's gonna kill us all.
Yeah, so I ended up like getting kicked out of the office by the contract lead. Nobody knew, like the government didn't know that she did this. She did it on her own and basically said, if you don't leave now, you're going to get fired. And it's like, what the fuck? So like I had to leave. And then the government people called me and said like, that should have never happened. But hey, we worked this out to where you can actually just stay home because of this and you'll still get paid. And I was like, sweet. So I ended up staying home the rest of the time.
Were you working or not working from home?
Doing some stuff, more like research and then like learning skills and things like that. Like, yeah, just doing a lot of like classes and skill-based stuff, like learning different skills.
Like mental performance mastery and heroic performance?
No, not that one at a time. There's a lot of Excel-based stuff, so a lot of stuff for work. But I didn't eventually do that, yeah. On my own time, I ended up doing that one. But yeah, so anyway, so I said, hey, the doctors aren't really helping me. I fought so many doctors over this time. I saw probably 100 plus doctors. Most of them didn't really help me, didn't really want to help me. Some even literally just said it's PTSD, anxiety, this and that, and they just wouldn't even like look into it at all. They just kicked me out of the office. So I said, you know what? I don't know how to read MRIs, but I do know how I'm an analyst. I'm trained at this, so I can look at two things and see if they're the same and look at patterns and things. So I just started looking at my MRIs, and I started looking online to see what was considered normal and what looked abnormal for mine, and just started asking questions on things like Reddit and different places, and came across some answers that way, and then some articles through Facebook and things, and I ended up finding that I had what's called cranial cervical instability. Found a doctor in Colorado that did stem cell therapy for that specific thing. I ended up getting out to him and done 4 treatments, I think, with him since 2021.
And so this is what's helped you become a mobile human person again?
Yep. So it tightens the ligaments that hold the skull onto the neck. And then we eventually did more ligaments throughout the body and different things in my back and shoulders and things to kind of stabilize things. Between that and just doing now, it's more a dedicated physical therapy. That's all out of pocket too, because it's not always covered by insurance, but dedicated physical therapist and just kind of rebuilt myself from the ground.
And so now your wife is happy because you get to travel again? And your kids are happy because you get to do things?
Yeah, presumably. I don't know. They're teenagers and off in college and stuff, so.
They're teenagers, so they're never happy. I got you.
Yeah.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Streetwalkers unite. Hey guys, a fellow streetwalker needs a little bit of help. previous guest of the show and young adult sci-fi post-apocalyptic author of the Blue series, S.M. Sykes, needs our help. He put out the first couple of books in the Blue series all by himself, and he needs our help to get the next one out. Any help is appreciated in his new Kickstarter. Go to Kickstarter.com and search A Faded Blue to help a fellow streetwalker complete the fourth book in the Blue series. Take it away, Scott.
How you doing? S.M. Sykes, author of Eyes of Blue and the Blue series, A Dim Blue, Loss of Blue. Just coming on to talk about my Kickstarter. I'm just asking for a little help, indie author here. Normally I take everything and handle it all on my own. The editor, the costs of the cover art, the marketing, all of that, just to get my books out there. This time I've run into a little snag with the income. Got hurt at work. Can't work right now. So all we're doing is we're asking for a little help. Check out the Kickstarter. A lot of great rewards. See if you can help get A Faded Blue out this summer. Thanks.
Let's get back into it.
Tell me, what is mental performance mastery?
So that's really kind of how I started with my weight loss, was just understanding my cravings and thought process and stuff around food. So I was able to control the controllables and say, okay, I can deal with that, and then look at my habits and then start changing my habits. And then I was able then to cycle it into, as I started to get better, right? So like when I started getting the treatments, I said, okay, well, I can't really walk right now, but if I'm going to be able to, I have to start somewhere. So I use this stuff to say, look, let me evaluate this and look and say, if I can walk 200 meters, and it was literally just 200 meters, I got to start there. That's all I can do. And that would take me like an hour. And I have to like talk to myself the whole time because my brain was freaking out, going like, this is going to kill you. So I had to start evaluating things on a different scale and to go, okay, is it worse than it's ever been? If no, then I'm not making it worse. It's just my brain has to realize we're safe and then go from there. So I just started doing that, and I'd have to stop and take breaks and take, breathers and let my body calm down and brain catch up to that thought process. And then I just kept working. When that became easier, it added a little bit of distance. Eventually I realized I want to do like push-ups and things like that. So I added one push-up a day, literally just one push-up a day, and built up from there and just kept growing. And this all just through mindset and just being resilient and just going, okay, look, let me evaluate this. My brain's going to freak out. It's going to tell me to stop. But if I can, in the middle of that, stop that process of freaking out and go, is it the worst it's ever been? And if it's the answer is no, then I'm not making it worse. So let me go ahead and continue doing this. And it was very tough at first, and then eventually became easier over time, and then became just kind of second nature eventually. So
what is heroic performance? What is that? That's a thing that you're certified in. What is that?
It's the Heroic program. They have an app. It's called Heroic. And they call it the best self-development tool out there, like, app or whatever. They just go through a coaching program with that. And that's actually how I ended up getting to the Spartan Races, was through the coaching program with them. Their certification is to do a Spartan event. Yeah, so that's how I kind of got onto the Spartan Races, building myself to be able to do that.
What's a Spartan race?
It's an obstacle course race. They have different distances. So I started out with a 5K, and then they have a 10K, and then a 21K, and then they have like 50K.
What is on this obstacle course?
It's usually in a mountain, or sometimes like on a family farm, things like that. A couple of them are like family farms, but usually in a mountainous region. So a lot of hill runs and things like that. They have barbed wire crawls. They have mud pits you got to jump through. They're like just water, go under everything. Monkey bars. You got a spear throw.
So just so that I understand this correctly, you went from not being able to get from the couch to the refrigerator to doing these Spartan races where there's monkey bars and fucking rope swings.
Yeah.
And this, you think, is a result of weight loss and stem cell therapy treatments?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Why are you not on every national news station? Why? I'm confused.
That's what I'm here for, man. I'm trying to get the story out, let people know about this stuff.
Holy balls.
Yeah, man.
Heroic performance. Tell me more about this. I'm so sorry I interrupted you.
I'll blow your mind a little bit more here too. So my first race I did was in September 2023. I did a 5K in DC, this 5K Spartan race in DC, and it took me an hour and a half. I did it with a buddy, so 90 minutes. I did the same race last year, but did the 10K and the 5K in the same weekend, same course. And the 10K I did in 97 minutes.
Wow.
I doubled the distance and basically did it in the same time in just a year's time frame. So,
Which do you think is the most responsible for this miraculous turnaround? The diet or the treatments?
I think 100% they're the combo of the two, because the treatments themselves would have helped, but the ligament damage I was doing by not controlling the
By being heavy?
chronic, yeah, well, that, but also the chronic diseases. So if I eat wrong, like my psoriatic arthritis will kick in and I'll have like a lot of joint pain, things like that. So
Okay.
like being able to get those under control via the diet first allowed the stem cells to work properly in the first place. I think if I didn't have that, it would have taken longer if it worked at all.
So part of it is eating foods that are less inflammatory?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot to digest, but we don't have a whole lot of time left. So I want to talk about, you have a podcast, and this is insane. Everybody check this out. Kevin Brewer has a podcast called Rise Again from the Struggle. As we're recording this, and this will be a bookmark of sorts for those listening. As we're recording this, today was Kevin's 800th episode of Rise Again from the Struggle. 800 episodes. I'm not even at 500 yet, and I've been doing this for almost 8 years. Kevin's been doing this for 2 years, barely. He started it in December of 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
The 800th episode came out today. Now, the peculiar thing about these episodes is that there's only about 3 of them that are longer than 2 minutes. 3 episodes, which are like basically half-hour interviews from people who were foundational and helped Kevin with information and inspiration and whatnot. The rest of the episodes are somewhere around, well, most of them are about a minute, but they can go up to about 2 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of Rise Again from the Struggle, and why do you do it? Like, why do you put out a 60-second episode every single day? Well, first, why did you decide to do the struggle?
It was actually a challenge through one of the coaching events I went to. So this lady, Lauren Johnson, puts on these events, and the first event I went to her with in November 2022. There was a guy named Jake Thompson that was one of the speakers there. He does Compete Every Day podcast, and that's his company's Compete Every Day. And he kind of challenged us there to just start making videos. So I just kind of started making videos, and then eventually just turned those, put those videos into podcast format and to get them out in more places. So started in December that year. I just said, hey, you know what? Let me just start here and do it for a month, and then just kept going.
So why do you still do it? Your goal was a month. We're 27 months into this. Why are you still doing it?
So I'm building a coaching business on the side. So I coach men to be more resilient, understand that health is a skill, and mindset's a skill that you can use to overcome pretty much any challenge in your life. So this helps spread that message too, giving you useful tips and thoughts, things that come across my mind, and how I use this stuff on a day-to-day basis, to better your life and become the best version of you, because you owe that to the world.
Why do you feel that that's your job? Like, nobody helped you. You had to go find all this shit by yourself. Why are you proselytizing this?
I would actually push back on that and say there's lots of people that helped me in the long run. I had a couple of doctors that did try to help figure things out, but they just didn't know. It wasn't in their wheelhouse, so they would, spend some time with me and different things. I could bounce some things off there. The people at work that put up with me, like literally having to lay down, that was a significant help. Things I did for that. One of my team leads basically put her job on the line to help me out to be able to do some stuff at home. So I had a lot of things that happened and where people helped me in terms of stuff like that. So because of that, and then also one of the things I didn't mention was that one of the turning points there, I was laying in my closet one day having one of these episodes, and major panic attack, and felt like I was having a heart attack again. I said, God, I don't really do this. I know I don't talk to you much, but if you let me live through this, I'll figure this out, and then I'll teach other people. So that's kind of the crux of it, where I started to do that, and and then I just started talking to more and more people about it, and felt that was my purpose, is to be able to teach people that they have more control over their health than they know. There's a lot of fake information out there, false information that's keeping them sick. Since I have the intelligence and the background to analyze this stuff and look at it and have a different perspective, and since I have the psoriasis as a gift, so to speak, like it sucks, but I know really fast what foods affect me. So I have this kind of like outward sign that I can help people learn how to then find those smaller signs within them that they can then do the same thing on a different scale.
Do you think that these bad foods, I'm going to call them bad foods, do you think that they affect all people the same, or do you think that some people aren't as affected by bad foods as others?
Nutrition is very individual dependent. So what affects me won't affect you the same. Well, there'll be some overlaps, but it's not one for one.
Like some foods are just bad, and then some foods are just bad for different segments of the population, or worse for the different segments of the population?
Yeah, you can. I don't know if I necessarily say bad because everything has a purpose in some fashion. Like if you were severely calorically deficient, there's almost no food that's bad. Like if you really need the calories, like you get it how you can.
Yeah, like plumpy nut, right?
Yeah. So, you get it how you can, like in a survival situation, whatever, But if you're trying to optimize your health, you're trying to live longer and healthier, there's things that you should look at, like, things that would inflame you over, things else. So for instance, a weird one was like broccoli, for instance, for me, causes some inflammation.
That's really surprising to me.
Yeah. But other people can have it and have absolutely no issues. So, it's just, you just have to play around with it and you start to kind of notice it, like different things. Somebody asked me the other day, like what my relationship is with the scale. And I was like, I weigh myself every single day. And the reason I do it, I don't care what the number says, because your foods will affect you differently. Like, so if you eat something that your body doesn't really register with or doesn't like, you may retain water, right? So you may gain a pound or two within one day. And it's not because you've actually gained weight. You've just retained water or inflammation. So when I use that, I use it different ways for that. So for instance, when I do the Spartan races, I gain about 5 to 10 pounds afterwards because my body's just in hoarding mode going like, what the hell just happened? And then over the course of the next week or so during my recovery stuff, it'll drop down back to my normal weight. So it's a measuring tool to see what my food or my training's doing.
Kevin, are you on social media?
Yep. On Instagram, I post on YouTube and stuff like that. So it's all pretty much the same messages for the most part, but LinkedIn. So at Coach Kevin Brewer for pretty much all the platforms.
At Coach Kevin Brewer.
Yep.
Is that how you're billed when you're on other podcasts? Like if somebody was looking to find other things that you've been on, is that how they would search it? Coach Kevin Brewer?
Yeah, I pretty much put my name on every single post. So you can, if you just Coach Kevin Brewer, you can find me.
Okay. Do you have a website, Kevin?
It's being built. I had one initially, and then I changed services, and I was trying to do it myself, and I suck at it. So I just said, screw it, I'm just going to pay somebody to do it.
Sure. What's the most basic yet most important thing that you want everybody to get out of this episode?
Health is a skill. How you look at your perception, your ability to see the world is a skill. If you never train it, then you'll have this, negative self-image of things that you can't overcome things, you can't deal with things. But really, that's just limiting beliefs that people have taught you throughout and build you like you don't have the ability to do exactly what I did. It's nothing I did was special. It's just a matter of using my brain to my advantage rather than letting it continue to defeat me.
We talked about Rise Again from the Struggle, your podcast, which has 800 episodes so far. One comes out every day. They're very small. They're micro episodes. Like I said, they're roughly a minute long. And on that, you cover everything from how important is perception to pleasure and pain learning and what we're really looking for when we're seeking these things out, to radical acceptance and mindsets and everything in between. Do you envision this as just sort of a daily affirmation for the listeners, like just something to start their day with?
Yeah, that's really what it is. So it's like just kind of different ways to kind of look at how you think, right? So it's like helping you build to look at things in a different way. And once you start doing that, you start building this curiosity. That's kind of what I mentioned with you is like your curiosity really is inspiring, because if we're not curious, we don't start asking questions, even of ourselves. We don't start questioning ourselves and how we're looking at things. You never actually realize where those beliefs came from. It's just usually from somebody else. And if we never question it, we'll never grow.
I love that. What great words to go out on. Kevin Brewer from Rise Again from the Struggle podcast, and also from just being Coach Brewer and helping inspire and teach everybody else. Is there anything that we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you specifically wanted to talk about on this show?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah, a lot of that, just mental capacity, of understanding that all this stuff is a skill and that you have the ability to learn. You just have to have the curiosity and the desire.
Kevin Brewer from Rise Again from the Struggle podcast, also basically a life coach. I'll say it. You didn't say it. basically a life coach. He teaches people to be inspired and to seek the truth and find things that work out for themselves and how and why they do. Everybody go check out Rise Again from the Struggle. It's a podcast available everywhere. Like I said, each episode is about a 60-second affirmation. I think it's a great way to start your day. I am subscribed and will be checking that out. I've listened to a ton of them so far. Obviously not all 800 because, well, I haven't. But I think that I will add this to my daily regimen of listening to stuffs. Dude, Kevin Brewer, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic, changing the way you and everybody else lives schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. I had a lot of fun.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. And you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. You do, Sam.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye.
Opening music is the song FSP Theme, written, performed, and provided by Ambush Vin. Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jax Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend. Subscribe and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.